The most significant changes to American law rarely come from fierce partisan battles. Instead, they happen when both major political parties quietly agree. This presentation examines the underlying consensus in Washington, focusing on the specific areas where alignment is strongest, from surveillance expansion and financial frameworks to corporate immunity shields. We will look at how this structural cooperation operates behind the scenes, and how it is steadily reshaping the relationship between citizens and the state by prioritizing administrative and corporate authority. While cable news feeds us endless theatrical fighting over culture wars, the actual machinery of Washington operates with quiet, bipartisan efficiency. Behind the scenes, both parties routinely join forces to pass sweeping structural laws. The consequence for everyday Americans is a steady erosion of personal freedom and consumer rights, as the political system systematically prioritizes corporate and administrative power over the public interest. This permanent architecture of governance rests on 5 core pillars that remain untouched no matter who wins the White House. We are looking at expanding domestic surveillance, granting sweeping legal immunity to massive corporations, shielding Wall Street from its own financial risks, rubber-stamping multi-trillion-dollar defense budgets, and signing trade deals that bypass our own courts. Together, these pillars form a permanent system designed to protect capital and state power at your direct expense. Take the surveillance state. Lawmakers use temporary sunset clauses to convince us that emergency spying powers will eventually expire. Instead, these dates act as scheduled upgrades, quietly expanding government overreach every few years. From the 2001 Patriot Act to the 2024 RISAA expansion, both parties have consistently built a permanent infrastructure of mass, suspicionless spying, treating your personal privacy as a bargaining chip. The real-world impact is staggering. Federal agencies conducted over 278,000 illegal, non-compliant searches of American data in a 2-year window alone. While Section 702 is sold as a tool to track foreign adversaries, the global nature of digital networks means your private emails, texts, and locations are constantly swept up into databases. Federal agents then search this information without a warrant, effectively erasing your Fourth Amendment protections. Corporate immunity is another bipartisan favorite, spanning technology, agriculture, and healthcare. Whether shielding big tech monopolies from liability under Section 230, protecting industrial agriculture from local carcinogen warnings, or handing billions to corporate airlines while blocking worker safety claims, Washington consistently builds legal shields for the powerful. The average citizen is left bearing the financial, digital, and physical consequences entirely alone. To make these immunities stick, Washington uses a legal strategy called federal preemption. By passing massive federal laws, Congress can completely wipe out state and local consumer protections. Recent examples include blocking local health warning labels on chemical products and dismissing state-level lawsuits against the fossil fuel supply chain. When your local courts are stripped of their authority, everyday citizens lose their most effective tool to hold massive corporations accountable for harm. There is a blatant double standard in our financial laws. In 2005, a bipartisan coalition made it incredibly difficult and expensive for average families to wipe out medical or job loss debt through bankruptcy. Yet just 3 years later, that same political establishment bailed out the massive financial institutions that caused a global crash. Wall Street's multi-billion-dollar risks were socialized onto taxpayers, establishing a permanent system where corporations are too big to fail, but you are completely on your own. Military spending has reached an unquestioned multi-trillion-dollar baseline. For over 60 consecutive years, both parties have overwhelmingly approved the defense budget, steering us toward an unprecedented $1.5 trillion proposal for fiscal year 2027. To avoid public scrutiny and standard budget caps, lawmakers hide hundreds of billions in mandatory funding maneuvers, committing your tax dollars to an escalating war economy before domestic needs are even considered. This endless spending machine is sustained by a highly strategic loop. Defense contractors spend nearly $150 million a year on direct lobbying, employing a workforce where over 60% of lobbyists are former government officials. By deliberately spreading weapon manufacturing and innovation hubs into almost every single congressional district, contractors make defense cuts an immediate threat to local jobs. This systemic trap forces your representatives to vote for more spending, regardless of actual defense needs. Global trade deals carry an incredibly dangerous mechanism known as Investor-State Dispute Settlement, or ISDS. This framework allows multinational corporations to completely bypass American public courts. Instead, they can sue sovereign governments in private international tribunals if local public health, labor, or environmental laws threaten their expected future corporate profits. It effectively grants global companies a corporate veto over the democratic decisions of your local community. Electoral promises consistently evaporate in the face of this institutional power. Presidents Obama and Trump both campaigned heavily against mass surveillance, yet both expanded the spying apparatus once in office. Similarly, while consumer advocates warned that the 2005 bankruptcy bill would devastate middle-class families, high-profile Democrats championed the bill alongside Republicans to protect banking interests. The lesson is clear. Individual politicians change, but the underlying system remains entirely unbothered by elections. This permanent state is fueled by three forces: corporate capture via relentless lobbying, national security justifications used to socialize financial risks, and cosmetic reforms that pacify the public while expanding government authority. Together, these elements create a self-perpetuating system. It is designed to resist any outside interference, making your vote essentially irrelevant to the core operations of economic and legal power in this country. For the average American, the costs of this bipartisan consensus are heavy and direct. You are left with a vanishing expectation of personal privacy, as warrantless spying becomes standard practice. Your ability to protect your family through the legal system is choked off by federal corporate immunities. Meanwhile, the unstoppable expansion of the military budget drains resources away from the crumbling domestic infrastructure and communities that actually sustain American life. We are approaching critical legislative milestones that will test the absolute limits of this system. The upcoming USMCA trade review will lock in the power of corporate tribunals, and Congress will vote on a historic $1.5 trillion defense budget. These decisions will determine whether any public resistance can break through this wall of agreement, or if the erosion of your rights has officially become a permanent, unalterable fixture of American governance.